Chapter 11. The Fur Trade and Samuel de Champlain. Many of the Frenchmen who came to North America in the 1600s and 1700s were fur traders. These traders traded with the native people. They gave them European goods in exchange for animal skins and furs. The traders collected many kinds of fur, but they were most interested in beaver pelts. Beaver hats were popular in Europe. You could sell beaver hats in England, France, Germany, and Russia. Why were beaver hats so popular? For one thing, beaver fur is thick. It is thick enough to keep your head warm in a cold Russian winter, and it is waterproof. Rain runs off a beaver hat. Your head stays dry. Some hat makers used the beaver fur as it was. They made soft, puffy hats. Others processed the beaver fur to make felt. The smooth, waterproof felt was then formed into hats. Felt hats did not look like they were made of beaver fur, but they were. In many parts of Europe, there were no beavers left. Hunters had killed too many of them. The beaver had almost gone extinct. Europeans could not get beaver pelts at home, so they were willing to pay for beaver pelts imported from North America. Samuel de Champlain and other Frenchmen took the lead in the fur trade. They set up trading posts in North America. There were trading posts along the Atlantic coast. There were trading posts in Quebec and along the St. Lawrence River. There were even trading posts farther west, along the shores of the Great Lakes. On the page that follows is an adaptation of Champlain's journey down the river of the Iroquois to the lake that came to bear his name, Lake Champlain. July, 1609. We continued on our journey until we came to an island. The island was about 3 leagues long and had the finest pine trees that I had ever seen. We went hunting here and captured some wild animals. The next day we started out again, floating down the river as far as the entrance to a large lake. There were many pretty islands there. They all contained many fine forests and lush meadows. There were too many birds to count. Also, we saw all kinds of wild animals, such as deer with their young fawns, bears, and many animals that move from the mainland over to the islands and back again. We captured many of these animals as well. There were many rivers that emptied into the lake, as well as dense forests of fine trees. I found chestnut trees on the border of the lake. I had never seen trees like this before. There were great numbers of fish in the lake. I noticed that many of the mountains in the distance to the north had snow on top of them. I was told that the Iroquois lived there, and that there were many beautiful valleys with fruit and grain there. Many different native groups lived in these lands. The French made treaties with some of them, including the Algonquin people and the Huron people. The French agreed to trade with these people and not fight with them. The native people would bring beaver pelts to trade. In some cases, they would bring pelts they had gathered themselves. In other cases, they would bring pelts they had obtained by trading with other native people. The French would barter with the native people. They would give the native people things they wanted in exchange for the beaver pelts. Many of the things the native people wanted were made of metal. Most native people did not make their own metal products. They had to trade for these items. Many native people traded furs for knives and axe blades. Others traded for kettles and fish hooks. Still others traded for glass beads from Europe, which were highly desirable. The French would gather up lots of beaver pelts. Then they would ship the pelts back to France and sell them. They made a lot of money doing this, so they did it again and again. As time went on, the French learned what the native people liked. They learned that many native people would trade beaver pelts for wool blankets. Some would trade for tobacco. Others would trade for guns and gunpowder. In 2011, the people of Canada put an image of a beaver on the back of their nickel. They did not put the beaver on their nickel because he is cute. They put the beaver there because the fur trade is an important part of the history of Canada. For 200 years, the fur trade was a source of income for the French and the native people alike.